Good afternoon. Good afternoon. Today we are in Canada. We are remaining here in Victoria. My guest today is Miss Jovanna. I choose to talk with her because I said to myself, I need someone, I need senior. So I need a person who is in this situation, the member of the most vulnerable population, which are, as we all know, so far, seniors. So I was so glad that you accepted my invitation. Welcome here. Welcome to our meeting. How are you today, Miss Jovanna?
I'm great. Thank you for inviting me. That's just an honor to participate in your effort.
Yeah, I'm really glad. I'm really glad. You are the only person. You're the only senior I know in Canada, here in Victoria. I'm mostly, closely related either to my generation, people that I'm working with, or other families and moms. I have that school community. But I met you a few years ago when my mom was here in Canada helping out with a grandchild. So we stayed in a contact, and I love talking with you. I love sharing, especially because you have a lot of experiences. And you know, when I mention anybody, when I mention you, I always say she's always on the road, always on the road. She's so active, she's so vibrant, she's outgoing person. I wouldn't ever give you 71. Never, never. So when I cannot imagine you in this situation, and I'm curious to know how did you go, especially in first few weeks when you found out about Corona situation, and that you are the one who are the most vulnerable, like the one we should protect, the one we should, in a sense, take care, like not in a sense, but we should take care, and we should avoid any contact. How did you feel? Were you frightened, or what was the most frightening for you in that situation?
Well, the first week was kind of belief. I didn't really, okay, this is happening. I guess it's coming here too. So the second week it sank in, and I started thinking about, well, first of all, I learned that I was elderly.
Yo, I hope I didn't offend you. I hope your spirit is saying something different, but we are following a calendar here. I'm sorry if I offended you.
No offense. Some days I don't give myself 5, never mind 71. So, yeah. So then by the third week, I was scared for 5 minutes. Because for one thing, I live in a seniors building, and most people here are upper side of 60. And there are a lot of caregivers coming in, and I had noticed that not all of the caregivers or people around me are taking it seriously and taking precautions, and I started a little bit freaking out about it, but it didn't last long because I don't know, when the big thing hits, I sort of don't panic. I panic about little things, which is strange. How am I going to do this and then the other thing day to day? But the big things, I don't know, I just rationalize. Okay, so I feel well. I'm healthy. I'm taking precautions. I'm staying away from people. I got sanitizers. I got gloves. I got masks. I can make some if I run out. So after that, I wasn't taking it all that out of proportion. and I settle in doing things that are at hand. The work kind of dropped out. People stopped going to work, and I just began doing things that are doable. You know,
Okay.
and,
Do you maybe remember, like, did you have any plans that week? Anything that was just suddenly stopped, or, you know, not on your calendar anymore? Like,
well, yeah, definitely. Like, I look after my grandson, and that was a big concern. How I'm going to do that now, and what risks are there, and my part-time work. I have people I'm taking care of, seniors, also elderly, more elderly than myself.
Yes.
And I wasn't going there anymore, and that was unusual in the beginning, hard to get used to, because I'm very close to these people.
Yes, I know.
My family, my friends, and but again, I just thought, well, this is what it is, and make lemonade.
So what were you doing actually? What were you doing that first week?
This is what we're given.
Yes, but what were you doing that first week? Like, now there is no that part-time job. You can't see your grandson. You're taking all the precautions. What were you doing actually the first week? I cannot imagine being, you know, alone, and suddenly everybody are either avoiding me or I should avoid them. And I can imagine actually being in a state of fear.
Yeah, it's difficult for me because I'm a social person. I talk to people, I hug people, I talk to anybody out in the street, in a bus, in a shop, you know. And to be kind of skirting around the hallways, bypassing my neighbors, you know, not taking elevator together and things like that. It was, but that again didn't last long. I just adjusted, and I called people on the phone and dropped notes under their door, and asked how they were doing, and we communicated that way, so it wasn't so lonely. What was I doing? Yeah, not much. I try not doing anything. And soon enough, I was discovering things about myself.
Oh, we will come to that. We will come to that. Yes, yes. But you mentioned earlier that you're taking care of some other seniors. So I was wondering, and I know that you're involved. You're the
sorry.
one who you're the. Can you hear me?
Sorry, I was losing. I touched the volume. Are we okay?
No, no. We will continue. We will just continue. I know that you are involved in community, and there are a lot of, especially women, that you are helping out. And how did they react now when you're not around? And have you been in touch with them?
One of them is over 90, and she's in a home, and I would go and visit her and spend some time with her. But of course, the home was closed now, and there was no one to visit her. And she's not too bad. You know, she's doing well. She has a lot of friends that she's made within the retirement home, and she's in one that's very well organized and very well attended to the retirees, and she's not lonely that much because she has Alzheimer's, and most of the time she forgets. She gets reminded about people in her life. It doesn't last long, I suppose. And also, as it happened, we discovered that she can't hear, so I couldn't talk to her. She wasn't answering the phone, and I was worried about her because she wasn't answering the phone, and that's unusual. As it turned out, her hearing took a wrong turn, and nobody knew that she wasn't.
I don't see you. I don't see you.
Oh my goodness. Oh.
There you go.
Oh, that was my thumb you were saying. You did see part of me. Sorry.
No, it's okay.
Sorry, me and technology. Okay. Yeah, so there are others that were kind of managing with family members, because now family members were not working. So they had time to pick up, you know, before I had to do things because the family were busy working, right? So it's interesting how things work out.
I can imagine you being in a garden these days, because I know that you're a huge gardener. And I was going through our messages in March, and one week we were commenting on cherry blossom because it was beautiful. We had beautiful cherry blossom at the beginning of March, and suddenly we were all staying at home. And I know that a lot of people are in their gardens, but because you're living in a building. Are you doing any gardening? Are you planning?
Oh, try to stop me. I have a balcony absolutely loaded with seedlings. I cannot pass up a seed or a cutting. You know, the cutting that starts a new plant. So I have probably about 15 mimosa pots growing, about 10, 11 cypress trees, you know, the ones that Van Gogh painted, you know. There's a garden over here, as you can see. There's a garden around. I don't know if you could see more.
Yes, I can.
And the weeds were taking over, and it's been a pain in the neck to look at it every time I pass. The paid gardeners are not doing very much. So it was funny, midweek, I couldn't remember this, but midweek, the first week, I was out there pulling weeds, and all of a sudden the fourth floor gang where I live, they popped out the hallway windows, and they're going, can't stay inside, can you? So
but that's you. That's how I can imagine you, and I can put you in that situation. I can.
No, I got to be outside. That's it. And of course my little patio garden, and then I have another young friend who needed a lot of help in the garden. So we did distance gardening. She would take a spot in the opposite corner and make coffee. And, you know, she's always very careful carrying it with the little napkin, you know, so she doesn't touch my mug. And there's always a mug of coffee around, and we're shouting at each other and, hey, how's it going? Well, the weeds are not doing well in my corner, that's for sure. So yeah, this city is looking way better, and I noticed that people are planting way more food.
Yes. I've heard about that. I read actually in a news article. Good to hear. Miss Jovanna, do you know anybody who has corona?
No.
Nobody here?
No one. I had a scare. My daughter wasn't feeling well, and she goes to a shut-in person, and she does shopping and washing laundry for him. And she wasn't feeling well. So that was a big scare, but she tested negative. So
she did a test.
She's very cautious. She takes every precaution there is and some more.
So probably she was worried about you, and then about herself, and then a kid. So
and her partner was going across to work on the ferry, and you know, her going into a seniors home again where there are a lot of workers coming in and out, and
Yes.
older people that may or may not have it, or you know.
Mm-hmm.
So a little bit freaking out and stressing out, and yeah, so that's handled. She's walking every day at least 4 kilometers now, and way calmer.
Yes, yes, yes.
For walking in soup, so without ever meeting anybody. So.
Yes, especially these days, it's getting warmer, so we at least, and her house is surrounded with woods, so there is actually
actually outside Souk, so it's a lot of trails, a lot of lonely places where one can take a walk forever.
Okay, you've been, Miss Jovanna, you've been through a lot. You've been through a lot, and I'm, you know, wondering, because you mentioned at the beginning, oh, I've learned a lot from this situation, and I've learned you know, about people and myself. So I was wondering, like, can you share? Can you share a little bit? Like, how do you see this situation? What did you get to know better about yourself or others? If you would love to share.
Sure. Why not? Well, being shut in and not having much that I must do, which I used to think, God, I just want a day when I don't have to be anywhere and do anything for anybody, you know. Well, here comes not a day but weeks, right?
Yes. Yes.
So it was really interesting to see how I was dealing with it.
And how did you deal?
Well, I found out that I just cannot sit still. I have to move. I cannot just not do anything, you know. So I thought a lot about it, and it's kind of, I don't know, a little bit not comfortable. Must I always be moving? Must I always be doing something? You know, it's strange to look at myself in that light. So I'm kind of working hard on just trying to relax more and not be occupied all the time. And one way for me to do that is going back to what I loved doing in Belgrade when I was young. Well, younger. Just wondering. Sorry.
What was that? What did you do when you were younger?
Just wandering around, just getting and getting to just go nowhere particular, and with no plan, and take shortcuts, you know, the alleyways and new communities, you know, walk around where somewhere I haven't been. And of course, with this situation we have right now, it hasn't been a problem in Victoria, really. You know, you can walk for a long time without meeting anybody on the sidewalk, and you can always cross the street and even go into the park. There isn't anybody there, so I'm trying to get into just walking without a purpose, without having to do something like go shopping, walking, or busing, or whatever. Of course, I haven't been busing because that's situation. So that's really neat, you know, going back to doing what I used to love when I was about 25 and under.
Mm-hmm. And it's good because in a sense you are rediscovering your neighborhood.
Oh, for sure. And Oakland is really lovely.
Mm-hmm.
It's full of these little single family dwellings and, you know, still not developed,
Mm-hmm.
you know, very few new developments that are cropping up. So it's really nice to see, to wander around and discover it.
Did you give any promises? Did you give any promises to yourself? Like from now on I will be or do, or did you start something new?
Well, actually, yeah, I kind of promised to pay attention to my shadow.
Mm-hmm.
That's another thing I discovered.
Mm-hmm.
I have a shadow.
Mm-hmm.
Ooh, I'm not special. Everybody has a shadow, right?
Mm-hmm.
So I have been taking small steps to invite my shadow in and get closer and accept
Mm-hmm.
my not so admirable parts.
Yes. Integration.
Not so
Integration.
yeah, not so accepted parts. You know,
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm.
spending first years of our lives, you know, just stuffing all the undesirable parts of ourselves into the bag.
Mm-hmm.
And then we spend most of our lives carrying the bag around. Well, I finally saw the bag.
Good to hear that. I've
So
been
you just have to open it.
yes. Yes. These days I'm feeling like I'm, you know, moving in. I started in previous isolation in my country, and I was in one point, and now I feel like I've been doing the full circle and coming again into collective trauma and isolation. And it's like I'm graduating. I feel that way, and I do a lot of integration and a lot of release, you know, just releasing, accepting and releasing something. So I do understand what you're talking. I think a lot of people are feeling that way. Somebody, they just don't know how to articulate, but I can hear them saying, like, this is changing me in some way. I'm redoing something or undoing, rethinking. And so how did you react on the news? For example, Italy was huge, and I know that you are following everything, what is going on around. Do you have any message for people? Like, if you would have a chance to send any message to anybody there, is there anything? Because is this for any good? How we can use it?
Well, this is, I guess, the first time, as far as I can tell, that the entire world is facing same problem.
Yes.
Challenge. And I did a lot of thinking, and of course, in first week, freaking out. What is this happening? You know, what is happening to us? People can't work. Oh, what's going to happen to our bills and all this usual stuff, you know, that comes into your mind first. Surviving. But this is part of surviving, like stopping and looking at what we're doing and where are we going from here. I think this is good because it is giving us the opportunity to stop and think about the world that we have created for ourselves. it doesn't seem to be working so much for us. I mean, we have more of everything than ever in human history. And I mean, as far as material goods, comforts, especially in North America, and abundance of everything, like everything. We're throwing stuff away. We can't give it away. So it's not making us happy. We're still not satisfied, contented, happy.
And not secure, which is the, you know.
Yeah, we're still scared for existence.
Yes.
And so this is good, I think. So we need to, well, I think that a lot of us are rethinking our, sorry, there's my neighbor taking me and waving. Yeah, to think about where to go from here and how better we can live from here on without harming each other and the planet, and how we can design better life and a better world for ourselves. And I hear something about Amsterdam and how they're going to pay less attention to economy and more to people's happiness and well-being. And I remember seeing a little documentary on this small Buddhist kingdom, Bhutan. They don't measure their economic situation to gauge the happiness. I mean, to gauge the success of the nation and the country. They actually monitor people's happiness, their success that way. So,
and as you
fine
said,
idea.
As you said, right now the whole planet has stopped. So I found that it's now easier to embrace everything what people came to know, or like we can easily embrace something what is going on, or what is what has been discovered in Amsterdam, you know, because we are now also sitting and waiting, and it's a good time to share. You know, it's good time to bring and say, why Amsterdam? Why not Victoria? Why not here? Why we cannot bring that here? And it's easier than ever to put all those good ideas on one plate. You know, it's
exactly, it's easier because everybody, well, not everybody, but a lot of people are thinking along same lines. And thoughts are energy, and energy moves and shapes things.
Yes.
So it's like a wave.
One ripple.
I hope it's a tsunami.
Yes.
I was brought up to use what I have instead of just going to buy something that I need to do such and such. Like, for instance, going to cook something. Instead of going shopping every day and getting what I need to make dinner, I would look in the fridge, and you know, we're so fortunate. We have cupboards full. We have abundance of everything. We have pantries. We have fridge full. You know, so oftentimes the food is wasted, and I can see that from my young ones around me, you know, wasting too much food. And I would think, why don't you just look in the fridge and see what you have already and see what you can make out of what you have got at hand, instead of just saying, okay, I'm going to go and get some tomatoes. Just recently, my grandson, he is doing the homeschooling, and they had they were learning on, of course, they're doing the Zoom meetings like we are right now. And the topic of the lesson was the Arctic and what happens in his imagination and life in the Arctic. So he loves Legos, so he chose to make up a little a Lego project, like ice oil rig. Yes, oil rig. And then we talked about that. And then he made oil rig, of course, and he made a boat, the supply boat, and the little man coming on board, and how the life would be. And then they put a little blue blanket on the floor, and they were supposed to make the video out of this, the stop animation, something called stop animation. I don't know what it is, but the finished product is the video. So they use the egg cartons, they use a piece of paper to make in the background, the mountains in the background, and floating ice sheets, and on a blanket. And they even used a crab, a little ornament that was in a garden ornament. And they devised a video, and it was just wonderful. Like they were unloading supplies, and the man falls in the sea, and they tried to rescue him, and there's no harpoon. They didn't have any harpoons, and then the monster crab shows up on a scene, and it was dramatic, incredible. And everything made out of what they had in the house. They didn't have to go and buy anything. They already had this at home. So if we could just make that one effort to use what we have already, instead of before we go shopping.
Yes.
To get more. Because
you reminded me of one of my t-shirts. I used to have a t-shirt with the sign, "All we need is less." And I remember wearing that when I was going to the gym, and people were just approaching and saying, "Yes, less money." And I was like, what? Like, what is going on? And then the other would approach the next day, and it was like, less stress, less stuff, less to-do list. And I was like, what's going on? And then I realized they're all reacting to that sign, like, all we need is less. Yes, I think we are realizing, a lot of people are realizing of that, and they doing the spring cleaning. But it starts here. Exactly.
Well, it's start here. Exactly.
So, Miss Jovanna, you know what I want to know? You currently living in a senior building. Is that right?
Yes.
Yes. So did you notice, I know that we know that you're healthy and you didn't have any concerns, but did you notice anything unusual going on in your building with your neighbors?
Well, I notice the changes in people's behavior towards each other. People are much more warm to each other and asking about health, how you doing, how's the family doing, from the distance, of course. Right now, because everything is going kind of more like towards opening everything up. So more people are coming down to the courtyard and visiting, of course, from the distance, because there's lots of room here, so we don't need to be close to each other. But we're still inquiring about what's going on and how you're managing. And the neighbor just walked by now, and I know that he is having health issues other than virus. So we, of course, inquire if anybody needs anything. And there's one particular lady here who is offered to make masks for everybody. She just happens to know how to sew and has some fabric, and she made one for each tenant in whole building. And then she's taking a list who needs extra masks, so she's making extra for people who need it. So it's wonderful, apart from other little errands that people are doing for each other. It just
That's
seems like the old is true. We all have it in us to help each other in crisis. So I've noticed that big change, and I hope it keeps up.
now when you said that, I also I have the same story. We couldn't buy our masks because there were no any in the pharmacy, but our
Yeah.
neighbors, in previous building, our landlord, we were making we were just walking around with the kid, and he noticed us, and he approached and asked if we have masks, and I said we don't, and we don't know how to get them, and he gave us
Yeah.
the mask that we are all of us are now using are the ones he provided us with. So it is very it's not unusual, but it's very nice. It's very nice to be
It's
say.
overwhelming. I just love it. It makes my heart expand. Just recently I had a personal experience. I went to buy CBD oil because I still take it for I'm in remission. I had a cancer, and I still keep taking it.
Mm-hmm.
So I'm lined up behind this young woman in front of me, and I don't know what's the procedure because there is just a little counter with a little window in front of us, and I don't know what to do. And she said, "Oh, you just tell her what you need, and she'll go and fetch it, and then you pay with credit, you know." And she said, "What do you need?" And I just showed her my little box because I didn't know.
Mm-hmm.
I didn't quite remember what the name of the type of the oil and
Mm-hmm.
the strengths and whatever. So she saw that, and she was in front of me, so she purchased both hers and mine, and I didn't realize that. So I came to the window, and the teller gives me this oil, and she said it's already paid for, and this young woman is walking off, and I was so overwhelmed. You know, it's just that kind of kindness that kind of happens in these
Situations.
times.
Yes. Yes.
Yeah.
I
Yes.
yes, I have very similar story to share. But I'm hoping I will bring that lady to one of my Zoom meetings, and then she can actually say the same story from her perspective. So
Yeah.
I don't want to say anything I had, but I had a very nice,
Oh.
beautiful. I almost cried. I almost actually cried. So I do understand. I do understand.
Overwhelming. It. I had another in a park. I actually hurt myself. I was playing with my grandson, and we were running around, and I ran under a structure, under a branch that was too low. And
Mhm.
because I was really running hard to get away from him, he was tagging me. So I couldn't run hard and duck. It doesn't work. So I scraped the top of my head, and I was bleeding, really bleeding, you know.
Mhm.
So anyway, and we were alone there. And then all of a sudden, this family was walking, and they were in a distance, and they were asking, "Are you okay?" And I said, "Well, you know, I'm bleeding here." So, and my grandson is the only person, you know. So he called the man called his name is Matt, and Danielle and Ronan, the baby. So they
Mhm.
were just walking around, and you know, they wouldn't leave us. They called the ambulance. They assessed the situation. They said that I was okay. I just need to go and get stitches, and it's better if I don't go in the hospital because
Yes.
because I would get risk
Yes.
over there.
It's better.
So since I was fine and didn't seem to have any concussion symptoms or anything like that, so and these people, they were standing there and watching and, you know, ready to help. And what they did is they actually followed my car because the ambulance couldn't drive me anywhere but to the hospital. So I had to find my way to the clinic on my own, which wasn't very far. So anyway, they followed me, my vehicle, to make sure that we get to the clinic
hospital
safe. So I was just
beautiful. Yes.
Their name, you know, it's just so overwhelmingly kind and compassionate and caring.
Yes.
Yeah,
I just hope we'll all get out of this with that great sense of
yes, keep it up. Keep it up. We don't need to stop being that way.
Of course. One of the lessons we had to be reminded of.
Yeah.
I'm glad you came and share your story with us. You look wonderful. And that environment, I don't know where are you, but it's beautiful. Your t-shirt goes perfectly with all those flowers behind you. I don't know if you were choosing that spot, but it's beautiful. It's beautiful. I will leave you.
Happen that way. Sorry.
Yes, I will leave you here and have a great evening.
Thank you so much for inviting me. Many blessings.